Hi guys, welcome back to Jan's English class, and today I'm going to be sharing with you some books I'm currently reading and some books on my to be read list, and also some new books I got this month. So I'm really excited to start today's video, so why don't we just go ahead and start today's video. I'm very happy to be sharing some books that I just got because a few days ago I think I went to Cave's bookstore. It's near my house. And so my parents and I and my sister, we bought some books, and I want to recommend some books as well that I'm currently reading. So I think I have a good mix of all genres here, and I'm really excited to share with you guys. Let's get started. Alright, so let's first start off with some books that I'm currently reading. So nowadays, I am starting to read some books that I just got. So they haven't been sitting on my bookshelf for so long. I decided to read them. And so the first book I have here is TED Talks, the official TED Guide to Public Speaking. This book made me feel a lot smarter that I'm reading this book because there's so many tips in this book that I've never found out that I'll find so useful. And if I bought this book for my YouTube channel so I get better at speaking from the camera. That has definitely helped me, and you don't just have to buy this book for if you're going to a TED Talk. Of course, this book is focused on TED Talks, of course, but I think you can, if you really dig deep into this book, I think you can find a lot of tips that will be really helpful for you when you're, speaking anywhere, like when you're having conversations, when you're giving a speech, when you're giving a presentation. I think this book definitely, hit all the spots that I wanted it to. So I was, intrigued when I read the blurb. I'm really liking this book. I read a few chapters. I'm kind of in the middle right now. I learned some great tips. I learned a lot of stuff reading this book. So it's definitely a must read. Totally recommend it. I haven't finished it yet, yo. Next we have Percy Jackson, Lightning Thief. I haven't read the Percy Jackson series, so I'm really excited to read it, and this is the first book. So many of my friends have read the Percy Jackson series, so I was like, why don't I just go ahead and read it? I've been wanting to read this book for a long time. I got the whole series as a gift, so I'm really grateful for it, so I'm deciding to read it. I haven't really read a lot of the story yet, but I have to say, I love the foreshadowing in this book. The adventure, the vibe it gives me, it's very interesting. It's like you're actually going on an adventure. For me, I've been obsessed with Greek mythology ever since 3rd grade. So, to read Percy Jackson, it's a pure jewel. It's wonderful. I love it. Foreshadowing, Greek mythology characters walking out of Percy's school book. I think that's a pretty cool idea. I mean, Rick Riordan is a very good author, and I have other books of him but I just haven't read it yet, so definitely will recommend this. Haven't finished it, so I can't give a full opinion on it, but overall, so far, so good. Yeah, and lastly, I'm also reading Born a Crime by Trevor Noah. Let's just say this is one of the best books I've ever read. I haven't finished it. I'm only in the middle. I'm starting part 2. But I'm really liking this book. It gives a great insight on apartheid as a whole, and it talks a lot about, racism and apartheid. It gives stories about Trevor Noah's childhood. I feel like that's really cool because he's colored, and, for me to really dive into a curious world of what apartheid really is, I think that just made me a lot more informed about, all the problems that South African people face. So I feel like reading a first-person perspective on apartheid, that's just really interesting for me to read. Trevor Noah is awesome at writing. I really like his writing style. There's a good amount of comedy in here. I really enjoyed that. It's sad, bitter, makes you angry at some places, but it also makes you laugh. I feel like that's one of the best things about this book. Totally recommend it. Well, so far so good, again. And I'm really looking forward to finishing this. Yeah. Alright, and let's move on to some new books I got this month. Alright, and next, let's move on to some new books I just got from the bookstore. Alright, and so firstly, we have J.D. Robb, Forgotten in Death. J.D. Robb is the I forgot how to pronounce it. The anonymous name for the author of this book. We all love a good murder mystery. I purchased this off Amazon. This book is basically about a detective called Eve Dallas. The whole entire series is about her. This detective, and in the story, she and her crew basically finds this woman, a dead body, in a trash bin in a construction site. And they start to, a lot of clues start to unravel. I really like the foreshadowing in this book as well. I only read a few pages of this book. I'm already loving it so far. I'm really looking forward to finishing this book by the end of May or something, because I have a lot of books to go through. And, I'm really looking forward to reading a good murder mystery. I hope this is going to be on my top 10 favorite books of the year. Yeah, and there we go. That's one of the books. Next, we have All the Light We Cannot See. Oh my god. So, I also purchased this off Amazon. I'm really, really excited to read this. I've actually read a few chapters. Well, not a few chapters, because one chapter is very short. So, this is one chapter. Well, that's a pretty long chapter. But, a normal chapter would be these, 2 pages or so. Or 1 page. Or, a few sentences. And they'll skip onto a whole new chapter. This book basically is about this French girl named Mary Laure LeBlanc. And she lives with her father beside the museum they work in. And, this story is a historical fiction novel. It's about World War II, Nazis, fighting between countries. They live in France. And then that's one of the stories. Mary is blind. So, we kind of see her struggles through daily lives. I think that is so tragic, heartbreaking. I feel like, it's luminous, it's enthralling how the author describes what the world to a blind girl is like. That's super interesting, And on the other hand, there's also another story about Werner Pethnig. I don't know how to pronounce his name. But he basically finds this crude radio where he hears messages and broadcasts coming from mysterious places. They both meet in St. Malo, where they all try to be good to one another during war. Also, Mary LeBlanc has this jewel called the Sea of Flames in her hands. It's very dangerous. Everyone's after it. So we kind of see mystery and excitement and a deep insight into World War II. Anthony Doerr's writing is awesome. I love his writing style. He's a bestseller. I love his books. This is the first book, but from what I've seen so far, this is gonna be one of my favorite books. Let's just say that, okay? So next, I also bought Six of Crows. I know this is the ultimate TikTok book. I know nothing about TikTok, but I searched this book up. It's really popular. A lot of people has read it, and this book is based on this world called Grishaverse. It's written by Leah Bardugo, and there's a lot of world building in the first few chapters. This is a new book I got. It's about this person called Cads Brecker, and he is given this chance to go on an impossible heist to obtain a great amount of fortune. but he can't do it alone. Like, it's a great heist. Then he finds partners, but then they have to kill each other. You know, there's villains, good side, bad side. You get entangled in this world of dark evil where everyone's after something. I feel like I'm really liking this book so far. Like, I love the taste of darkness in this book. It's of a great amount. So yeah, there's a lot of world building, and at first I was kind of confused by some of the words, and that's technically my fault because I hadn't read the Shadow and Bone series. I should go read that first, but since I already got this book, I'm just gonna go ahead and read it. I can do research on it about Grishaverse. So yeah, there we go. Next we have You Should See Me in a Crown by Leah Johnson. Sorry, I couldn't find the author name. It says over here. So this book is basically, I haven't really read the blurb yet. Let me read you. Liz Lightly has always believed she's too black, too poor, too awkward to shine in her small, rich, prom-obsessed Midwestern town. But it's okay. Liz has a plan that will get out of Campbell, Indiana, forever. Attend the uber-elite Pennington College, play in the world-famous orchestra, and become a doctor. Alright, and the rest of the blurb is pretty long, so I'm not going to read all of it, but it's talking about how her financial aid is going down. And, you know, there's a school scholarship for prom king and queen, so she's aiming for the crown. But, you know, she's halfway bearable in this new phone school called Mac. I think they make friends. Yeah, I haven't read this book yet, but I'm really excited. This is a YA book. I'm really excited because I've never really read books about prom before, I think. This is those kind of high school, college kind of books, you know. I love a good YA book. Yeah, so there's You Should See Me in a Crown. Wonderful. Lastly, we have The Thing About Luck by Cynthia Kadohara. Okay, so I read the blurb. This book is basically about this girl named Summer. And, you know, she's at a low place in her life. You know, they don't really have a lot of good luck in hand. There's impending disasters, and she figures out how she can create her own luck and create opportunities for herself. So I think this is a really good middle school book. I can already tell. I read reviews on this. They were all great. And this is a Japanese themed story, so that's pretty interesting. I'm looking forward to reading this. Wonderful. So, that is the new books I got. I know it's a lot. Next, let's move on to some books on my to-be-read list. Alright, and now let's move on to some books on my to-be-read list, TBR list. And so, firstly, we have this series over here. This is not really a series because there's more books inside. Liz Fenwick is the author of these 3 books. Let's talk about this first book over here first, Under Cornish Sky. So, I have never read this book before. Like, I don't know what this book's about. Judging from the blurb, this book is about 2 girls, one called Demi, who's being betrayed by her boyfriend, and Victoria, who has this house, and she has a loveless marriage, and she's been in many secret affairs. Boscawen, a mansion, plays a big part in both of their lives, and I'm really excited to read about that. Let's see. I've noticed that Liz Fenwick has mentioned a lot about Cornwall in her books. I don't know a thing about Liz Fenwick, so I'm guessing that her hometown is Cornwall. I'm not sure. If I'm wrong, please correct me. So the second book is One Cornish Summer. I'm actually pretty excited to read this because, you know, I love the front cover. And again, reading the blurb, Hebe receives a life-changing diagnosis at only 53, and then she struggling to make sense of what will mean for her. Her job and the man she loves. She flees to one place that she's always been safe and peaceful, Cornwall. On the other hand, Lucy's having her own crisis. She sees a chance to follow her aunt to Cornwall. Curious about what has driven Hebe there after so many years, she also has to battle with the secret she has kept since her family's last summer there more than 10 years ago. Can two women find their way back to things that is truly important to them? Wow. Full of wisdom and warmth. This book is over 300 pages, almost 400 pages long. So I'm guessing this book is, contemporary fiction, talking about home, finding your heart, romance, but a romance. A pinch of mystery, I think. So I'm pretty excited to read that as well. Lastly, we have The Returning Tide. So, two sisters win betrayal that will echo beyond their generations. I have read the blurb already. It's a sweeping story of families. It's about two sisters who has this, secret that may tear their family apart. So it's wartime in Cornwall, 1943. Adele and Amelia, they have this heartbreaking betrayal that will tear them apart forever. Decades later, the generations gather for a wedding at the cliffs of Cornwall, and the effect of one reckless act still echoes. Wow, how poetic is that? I haven't read a single review on this. I know, I'm so unprepared for books like this. There's even recipes in the back. I'm really excited to read this story because it seems like the perfect holiday read, in spring. I may read this. Sounds authentic. Sounds compelling. I'm guessing I'm gonna love it. The order of this book is this, and then you read One Courage Summer, Returning Tide. Wow. Alright. Pretty excited about that. Next, let's talk about Refugee. So, I borrowed this book from the library, so I didn't really buy it, but I borrowed it from the library, and it makes no difference whatsoever. I have to return in 2 weeks, though, so I hope I can finish this book in 2 weeks. So, Refugee. I have no idea what this book's about. Joseph, Isabel, and Mahmoud. Yeah, and they're all refugees. Their main core mission is to escape the country they're in. There's 3 different kids. They all have one mission to escape. I think they work together. They make shocking connections that tie their stories in the end. This is one of the top recommended books. So I'm really excited to read it. Alan Gratz has written, I think in this series, I think there's 2 books, 3 books, I'm not sure. But I'm pretty excited to read this book because it's historical fiction. I'm really excited because I don't usually read a lot of historical fiction, only classics and such. So I'm really looking forward to reading more of historical fiction, And a lot of people have said they love this book, so let's see if I liked it. Lastly, we have The Cruel Prince by Holly Black. Holly Black is also the author of the Spiderwick series. If you read that, I haven't read it yet, but I want to read it. So The Cruel Prince, I've seen this all over Book Talk. So this book basically talks about, from what I've read so far, hints about this girl named Jude and, her other sisters, Vivienne and other of her sisters. They enter this world of Elfame where there's a lot of fairies, they get crowned. In the beginning of the book, a man arrives to their house to kill their parents because they are actually the kids of the man, of the killer. So that's pretty magical. They get whisked off to this land of Alfheim, and they've lived there 10 years. And this prince got a card in. This is kind of like an enemies to lovers, I think, a trope, what Book Talk calls it. So, kind of a romance fantasy. I love fantasy books. Cruel Prince, I've heard and watched a lot of mixed reviews on this book. I'm not sure if I'm gonna like it or not, but I really hope I do, because I've been looking for a good book for a long time. So there's The Cruel Prince. I also borrowed this from the library. And yeah, let's move on to some books that I will recommend you read in spring. Alright, and lastly, last two books I will recommend to you to read this spring. So firstly, we have The Goodnight Stories for Rebel Girls. This is a super popular book. It's a New York bestseller. I love this book. So it basically has a lot of stories about amazing women out there who has made great impact to the world, solving gender equality in mathematics, sport, astronomy, all that. And it's fascinating to read about all their stories. It's wonderful. It's magical. I loved to read some nonfiction here. The stories are short and concise. The facts are all true. Loved it. It gave great insights onto different women's lives who made history. That's awesome. Wilma Rudolph. It's an A to Z biography of different women's lives. So in here they have such as Lisha Alonso, famous ballerina, and Amina Gurib-Fakim. I'm not sure how to pronounce her name, but Ada Lovelace, I know her. And basically they have all the A to Z contents of all the stories of amazing women out there. So I would totally recommend this. I read one story actually 3 or 4 stories each night. So I finished every single story in this book. I absolutely adored it. Totally recommend it. 5 out of 5 stars. Alright, next we have It Ends With Us. I posted a video earlier this year about books I got this Christmas. Last Christmas. So let's just say I actually pretty like this book. I really enjoyed it. Let's just say 5 out of 5. Actually, 4.5 out of 5 stars. There were a lot of discussions about mental health in here. Do check the trigger warnings on this book, because there's a lot of heavy subjects being discussed. In this book, this basically talks about a girl named Lily Bloom. She moved to Boston, Things haven't really been going well in her life. The story starts out talking about how Lily's father just passed away. She's sitting on the rooftop and just reflecting about everything going on in her life. And then, on the rooftop, she meets this guy named Ryle. And they form this special, unique connection, romance. As their relationship grows, Lily's flower business she owns also grows. And then in the book we see snapshots, journals of Lily she wrote when she was a teenager, and kind of give an insight about Lily's past love, Alice Corrigan. So, I love reading about their relationship. I loved the writing style in this book. Colleen Hoover is a fantastic writer. I love her. The romance in this book was written so well. However, it did not make me cry, but I did feel very emotional, and this was overwhelming. It was so interesting to read. It's unique. It's a jewel. But there are a lot of serious subjects being discussed in this book. So I wouldn't recommend this book for little children, like children under 15 or 16. I think this is a 15 plus book, or 14 plus, 15 plus. Although I am not 15, I read this book, but I skipped the serious subjects. I kind of read over them, but I still enjoyed it. I didn't miss any good parts. So yeah, I loved it. Totally recommend it for older readers. So yeah, and that is this video finished. Thank you so much for watching this video. I really hope to learn a lot of book recommendations, books you can read. Thank you so much for supporting me. Please like this video, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell. Yeah, and please check out Janet's English courses. Go listen to Janet's writing podcast, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.